You think you know if you're compatible with someone because you laugh at the same memes and both hate pineapple on pizza. You don't. That's called having similar taste. Compatibility is whether your life goals, values, conflict styles, and emotional needs can coexist long-term without one of you having to fundamentally change who you are. Most couples discover they're incompatible 3 years in, after they've moved in together, maybe gotten engaged, built a life, and suddenly realize they want completely different futures. And the tragedy is, they could have known on date 3 if they just asked the right questions. Let me show you the 10 questions that reveal real compatibility before you waste years on someone you were never going to work with. Question 1. What does financial security mean to you, and how do we get there? This isn't about how much money you make. It's about your relationship with money, risk, and security. Some people feel secure with $10,000 in savings and a stable job. Other people feel secure with $500,000 in investments and 3 income streams. Neither is wrong. But if you're dating someone whose financial security threshold is different from yours, you're going to fight about money forever. One of you will always think the other is reckless or paranoid, and neither of you will understand why the other can't just see it your way. Because you're not compatible on financial values. Here's what this looks like in real life. You value experiences. You'd rather spend $5,000 on a trip to Europe than save it. Your partner values security. They panic at the idea of spending $5,000 on something that doesn't build long-term wealth. Neither of you is wrong, but you're incompatible. You'll spend your entire relationship arguing about every financial decision, and one of you will always feel controlled while the other feels irresponsible. If you can't align on what financial security looks like and how you're going to build it together, the relationship has an expiration date. Question 2. How do you handle conflict? Do you need space, or do you need to talk it out immediately? This is the question that destroys more relationships than infidelity. Because most people assume their conflict style is the correct conflict style, and their partner is just being difficult. But conflict styles are deeply ingrained, usually from childhood, and they're nearly impossible to change. Some people are processors. When conflict happens, they need to step away, think, cool down, and come back later to discuss. Other people are resolvers. When conflict happens, they need to talk it out immediately, get reassurance, and feel reconnected. If a processor dates a resolver, every fight becomes a meta-fight. The resolver feels abandoned when the processor needs space. The processor feels suffocated when the resolver won't let it go. And instead of resolving the original issue, you're fighting about how you fight. Here's the brutal truth. If your conflict styles are opposites, you're not going to fix it with communication. Because the conflict style is the communication, you can't compromise on whether you need space or need to talk. You either need one or the other, and asking your partner to change their wiring is asking them to betray their emotional needs. The only way this works is if both people are aware of the difference and willing to meet in the middle. The processor agrees to come back within a set time frame. The resolver agrees to give space without spiraling. But if you don't know this about each other up front, you're going to spend years feeling misunderstood and resentful. Question 3. What role does your family play in your life, and what role will they play in ours? This question reveals whether you're marrying a person or marrying into a family system. Some people are deeply enmeshed with their families. Holidays are non-negotiable. Sunday dinners are mandatory. Major life decisions involve parental input. Other people are independent. They love their family but maintain boundaries. They make decisions as a couple, not as a family committee. If you're independent and your partner is enmeshed, you're going to feel like a third wheel in your own relationship. If you're enmeshed and your partner is independent, you're going to feel like they don't value family. Here's what people don't realize. This isn't about whether you like your in-laws. It's about power dynamics. If your partner can't set boundaries with their family, they won't set boundaries for you either. If their mom has a key to their apartment and shows up unannounced, that's your future. If they can't say no to family obligations that conflict with your plans, that's your future. You're not just dating them, you're dating their family system. And if that system doesn't align with your expectations, The relationship will feel like a constant negotiation where you're always losing. Question 4. How do you define loyalty, and what would make you leave? Most people think loyalty means not cheating, but loyalty is so much deeper than that. For some people, loyalty means you never talk badly about your partner to friends. For others, loyalty means you defend your partner even when they're wrong. For some, loyalty means staying through addiction, illness, or hardship. For others, loyalty has limits, and certain betrayals are unforgivable. If you don't know what loyalty means to your partner and what would make them walk away, you're building on assumptions, and assumptions kill relationships. Here's an example. You think venting to your best friend about a fight is normal. Your partner thinks that's betrayal. You didn't cheat. You didn't lie. But in their loyalty framework, you violated trust by bringing outsiders into your relationship. Now you're in a fight about loyalty, and you don't even understand what you did wrong. Or maybe your partner thinks staying together through anything is what real love looks like, and you think leaving a toxic situation is self-respect. You're operating with completely different definitions of loyalty, and one day one of you is going to do something the other considers unforgivable. And it will blow up because you never aligned on what loyalty actually means. Question 5. What does quality time mean to you? This is about love languages, but more specific. Some people feel connected through deep conversations. Others feel connected through shared activities. Some need physical presence. Others are fine with parallel play, where you're both in the same room doing different things. If your idea of quality time is a 2-hour conversation about feelings, and your partner's idea is watching a movie in silence, you're both going to feel neglected. You'll think they're emotionally unavailable. They'll think you're exhausting, and both of you will be confused about why the other doesn't feel loved. Here's the key. Quality time isn't about quantity. It's about whether the time you spend together fills your emotional tank. If it doesn't, no amount of time will fix it. You can spend every evening together and still feel disconnected if you're not meeting each other's actual needs. So ask this question early. What makes you feel connected to me? And then pay attention to whether you're willing and able to give that consistently. If you're not, you're incompatible. Not because you don't care, but because your relational needs don't align. Question 6. How do you recharge? Are you an introvert, extrovert, or ambivert? And what does that look like day to day to day? This seems like a personality quiz question, but it's actually about lifestyle compatibility. If you're an extrovert who recharges by going out, being social, and staying busy, and your partner is an introvert who recharges by staying in, being alone, and having quiet, you're going to fight about plans constantly. You'll feel like they're boring and antisocial. They'll feel like you're exhausting and inconsiderate. Neither of you is wrong. You just have incompatible energy systems. The mistake people make is thinking they can change this. The extrovert thinks they can get the introvert to be more social. The introvert thinks they can get the extrovert to appreciate quiet nights, and maybe you can compromise for a while. But eventually, both of you are going to resent sacrificing what you need to recharge us. If you don't naturally enjoy the same rhythm of socializing and solitude, long-term compatibility is going to be a grind. It's not impossible, but you need to go in knowing this is a fundamental difference you're signing up to navigate forever. Question 7. What are your non-negotiables in life, and are any of them deal breakers for me? Non-negotiables are the things you will not compromise on. Living in a specific city, having or not having kids, career ambitions, religious practices, lifestyle choices. Most people avoid this question because they're afraid the answer will end the relationship, but avoiding it just delays the inevitable. If your non-negotiable is living in New York, and their non-negotiable is raising kids in a small town, one of you is going to have to give up something fundamental. And the person who gives it up will spend the rest of the relationship resenting the other. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Love doesn't fix incompatible non-negotiables. You can love someone deeply and still not be able to build a life with them. If they don't want kids and you do, love doesn't solve that. If they want to travel the world and you want to buy a house and settle down, love doesn't solve that. Compatibility isn't about whether you love each other. It's about whether your visions of the future can coexist. And if they can't, the kindest thing you can do is walk away early instead of spending years trying to force it. Question 8. How do you handle stress? And what do you need from me when you're overwhelmed? Some people need support. Some people need space. Some people want to be comforted. Some people want to be left alone. If you don't know how your partner handles stress, you're going to show up wrong when they need you most. You'll try to help, and they'll push you away. Or you'll give them space, and they'll feel abandoned. And instead of stress bringing you together, it will create distance. Here's what this looks like. Your partner has a terrible day at work. You immediately jump into problem-solving mode because that's how you handle stress. But they don't want solutions. They want validations. They want validation. Now they're upset because you're not listening, and you're frustrated because you're trying to help. Both of you leave the interaction feeling unseen. The issue isn't that you don't care. It's that you didn't know what they needed, and they didn't know how to ask. If you have this conversation up front, when I'm stressed, here's what helps, and here's what makes it worse, you can show up for each other in ways that actually matter. Question 9. What does emotional intimacy look like to you? And how do you build it? Emotional intimacy isn't the same for everyone. For some people, it's deep, vulnerable conversations. For others, it's shared experiences. Some people feel close when they're talking about fears and dreams. Other people feel close when they're laughing together or accomplishing something as a team. If you need deep conversations to feel connected, and your partner feels connected through activities, you're going to feel emotionally distant even when you're spending lots of time together. The danger is assuming that if someone loves you, they'll automatically know how to be emotionally intimate with you. They won't, because their version of intimacy might look completely different. So ask, what makes you feel emotionally close to me? And then decide if you're willing to do that regularly. If their answer is something you're not naturally good at or don't enjoy, you're setting up a relationship where one of you will always feel unfulfilled. Question 10. If nothing about me ever changes, can you be happy with me as I am right now? This is the most important question, and most people lie when they answer it. They say yes, but internally, they're thinking, well, they'll probably grow out of that habit, or once we're more serious, they'll change that behavior. No. If you're dating someone hoping they'll change, you're not compatible. You're in love with the potential version of them, not the real version. And the real version is going to feel like a disappointment when they don't transform into your fantasy. Here's the test. Make a list of everything about your partner that annoys you or concerns you. Now imagine that list never changes. They still leave dishes in the sink. They still avoid difficult conversations. They still prioritize work over quality time. Can you live with that forever? If the answer is no, you're not compatible. If the answer is yes, but I wish they'd change, you're not compatible. The only acceptable answer is yes, because I'm choosing them as they are, not as I hope they'll become. Compatibility isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone whose imperfections you can live with, whose values align with yours, whose conflict style works with yours, and whose vision of the future includes you without either of you having to sacrifice who you are. Most people skip these 10 questions because they're uncomfortable. But spending 10 uncomfortable minutes asking them will save you 10 painful years discovering the answers the hard way. Now, here's my question for you. How many of these 10 questions have you actually asked in your current or past relationships? And how many issues could have been avoided if you'd known the answers up front? Drop a comment and let me know. And if you're serious about building relationships that last, hit subscribe for more content that cuts through the romance and shows you what actually matters. Compatibility isn't about liking the same things. It's about building the same life. Make sure you're building with the right person.